All right, so I've got a new fragrance here today from Ahmed Al Maghribi. This was one of two fragrances that I picked up recently from BanadeirFragrance.com. And this one is Ahmed Al Maghribi's Ahl, I believe is how you pronounce it. So AHL. And this is the box here. This is a 60 ml bottle. You've got the Ahmed Al Maghribi logo here at the top, the name of the fragrance, and then the bottle size and concentration. This is an extrait de parfum. And then on the side here, you've got the Ahmed Al Maghribi authenticity sticker and the production date. This particular bottle, this was actually produced this month in March of 2025. From what I understand, this is like the newest release from Ahmed Al Maghribi. So that makes sense that this one was just produced this month. Nothing on this side, nothing on the top. And then on the bottom, you have the, like the bottle size, concentration, stuff like that. And then on the back, you've got like the ingredients. The way that this opens up, it opens up kind of similar to like how Louis Vuitton, boxes open. So that kind of flips up like that. And then the bottle kind of sits inside of like this little cylinder. Again, just like how Louis Vuitton fragrances do. So that opens up like that. And then this is the bottle. Bottle definitely is a cheaper feeling bottle to me. You know, it's kind of got like this little plastic piece that kind of flares out at the bottom that, kind of goes over the entire bottle. And then the cap is just a kind of cheap sort of plastic snap-on cap. So nothing really special with the bottle. Now the sprayer on this, just like all other sort of Ahmed Al Maghribi sprayers, it is a pressurized sprayer. So that is pretty nice. And basically, this particular scent, to me, I would say this is kind of like a cousin or brother or sister of, another Ahmed Al Maghribi fragrance, which is Marge. That's what this kind of, reminds me of. It's definitely Ahmed Al Maghribi's Marge. Now, I'll go over the notes of this fragrance. So in the top notes, you have angelica root, banana and bergamot, Brazilian orange, cardamom, coconut, lavender, melon, pink pepper, and raspberry. In the mid, you have cashmere wood, cyclamen, iris, jasmine, lily of the valley, magnolia, marine notes, orange blossom, patchouli, rose, and tulip. And then in the base, you have amber, caramel, moss, sandalwood, Thai oud, tonka bean, vanilla, and white musk. So definitely this has a really, really long sort of note breakdown to it. Now, what do I get when I initially spray this on? Like I said, at least for me, this initially did remind me of Marge from Ahmed Al Maghribi. Now, definitely doesn't smell exactly the same to me. There are, I would say, absolutely like some differences that you get between the two fragrances. But if I were to, kind of compare this to anything else, that would be what I would compare it to, is Marge from Ahmed Al Maghribi. Now, when you first spray on Ahl, to me, this comes off as very kind of creamy and fruity. And the main fruit that I really get from this is surprisingly the banana. That's the main sort of fruit that I get from this. Now, I know there's probably a lot of people who are already turned off by that. I don't really care for too many like banana flavored things. I've never looked for like a banana flavor or a banana scented, fragrance or anything like that. Whether it's a fragrance that I've worn or, a candle or a car scent, like banana is just not typically like a fragrance note that I feel like I really, kind of go for. But I mean, at least the way that it's done in this, I don't really mind it, to be honest with you. Like I said, it is very prominent to my nose. That's again the main note that I'm really picking up for quite a while, I would say, when you first spray this on. Definitely getting a lot of the banana. As far as the other stuff, I feel like for the most part, I'm kind of getting banana, bergamot, pink pepper, and you could say maybe some of that Brazilian orange. Not really picking up on too much of any sort of coconut. I don't really pick up on any sort of raspberry in this or melon, to be honest with you. Like I said, for me, it's more of kind of like that banana, bergamot, and the Brazilian orange and the pink pepper as well. So this does come off as fresh and fruity, but at the same time, it kind of, again, has a slightly kind of creamy sort of feel. And I feel like a lot of that comes from like that banana note that you're getting in the initial opening of this. Now, obviously with this having such a large sort of note breakdown, a lot of the notes that, are in the note breakdown of this, you're not necessarily going to be able to, pick out necessarily. But for the most part, again, what I get is when you first spray this on, you kind of get that creamy, fruity, sort of feel from the fragrance, creamy, fruity, and fresh. And then definitely this does start to turn more towards a sort of, I would say kind of slightly leathery, oudy, sort of patchouli type of smell for sure. Like a lot of the other sort of floral notes that are especially in the mid, I don't necessarily pick up on. I would say the biggest one that I pick up on is the patchouli, the rose, and I mean, really, I would say that's about it. You could maybe say the jasmine as well. But yeah, I would say for the most part, the main ones that I pick up on are the patchouli, the rose, and the jasmine. And the rose in this is done pretty well. I mean, it doesn't come off to me as like a super feminine rose. This scent, I believe, is pretty unisex for the most part. Now, to me, Mars, which is what I said I would, kind of closely compare this to. Mars is definitely a lot less thick than what this is. So Mars definitely comes off as a lot more lighter and fresher than what this does. But to me, Mars doesn't come off as necessarily fruity as what the Owl does. Owl comes off a little bit more fruity and creamier, whereas Mars comes off a little bit more lighter and I would say definitely more floral heavy. So it's almost to me kind of like Mars to me smells more kind of like what a laundry detergent or like a really expensive dryer sheet would smell like. Whereas Owl to me smells more kind of like a general sort of fragrance. If that makes sense. That's kind of what I get from it is, yeah, Mars definitely to me is a little bit more floral, to me it's a little bit more harsher as well. Whereas, yeah, this to me comes off as more of sort of like a more of a fragrance. Mars is a little bit more kind of like, it smells more sort of like a scented chemical or something like that. Like I said, something that, you would scent like a dryer sheet with, or, a laundry detergent, like something like that. Not necessarily something that you would spray on your skin per se. Now, the performance on both of these, and actually before I get to the performance, once you get to the dry down of Owl, to me, that's when it really, really leans into that Thai oud. It's like a very dark, smoky sort of oud is what I get from this. So I don't really get much of any of those like sweeter notes that you get in the base of this fragrance. So like the caramel, the vanilla, the tonka bean, those I don't really smell too much of when I get to like the far dry down of Owl. I mainly get a heavy dose of like that Thai oud. Like I said, it comes off very kind of smoky and woody. And I mean, I definitely, I would say I get a little bit of that moss and musk as well in the dry down. So this fragrance, it does take you on, I would say, a pretty long journey, because the performance on this is actually insane, and I'll get to that in a moment. But basically, you start off, again, very kind of fruity and creamy, fruity, fresh and creamy in the beginning. Then you kind of head into the mid where you start to, get a lot of that patchouli and rose in the mid of the fragrance. So that definitely, to me, it kind of darkens the fragrance a little bit. But even when you get the rose and the patchouli, you're still getting, a lot of that sort of creaminess and fruitiness that you get from the opening or from the top notes. So those definitely do hang around for quite a long time. And then once you get past the sort of creamy, fresh, patchouli and rose sort of part of this fragrance, then after that, it for the most part kind of goes into like this really sort of dark, mossy, oudy, smoky sort of, aspect of the scent. So definitely, like I said, it does take you on a nice little journey, along the way. And again, the performance on this fragrance is really good. So in terms of the projection, you're going to get heavy projection for like at least, I don't know, like 4 hours or so. Like at least 4 hours. Like this is really, really beast mode. So I would say definitely kind of be careful with, how many times you spray this. And then, just the sillage, it's going to leave a really, really nice scent trail behind for quite a while. At least 3-4 feet or so, probably even more than that. And in terms of the longevity, this is easily a 24-hour fragrance. So the last time that I wore this, I sprayed it on like right after I took a shower at night. It was probably around, I don't know, 8-9 o'clock or something like that. And then, I work from home, so I don't necessarily get up every day, especially when I'm working, to take a shower. I just get up, do my work, take my shower after work. And the last time I wore this, it was on a work day. Like I said, I sprayed it on about 8:30, 9 o'clock the previous night. And then by the next night, by the time I went to go take a shower again, which was, around that time, I could still smell this. Now, obviously, it wasn't as strong and it didn't smell the exact same as what it did when I initially sprayed it on. You were getting a lot more of that kind of like oudy, musky, sort of feel from it. But it definitely was something that I could still smell, very, very easily. All right. So this is, like I said, easily a 24-hour plus fragrance, I would say, on skin anyway. And on clothes, this is going to be on your clothes for days, pretty much until you wash your clothes. All right. So really, really solid performance on this one. If I'm going to give this fragrance an overall rating, just in terms of, how much I enjoy this fragrance, I would say this fragrance is like a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's not necessarily my favorite from Ahmed Al Maghribi. This was definitely a blind pickup for me, but it's not the worst, so I prefer this over something like, the Ignite Oud, at least for me anyway. That Ignite Oud was just not necessarily for me. This particular fragrance, I think I actually liked a little bit more. You know, again, it has multiple different stages within the fragrance that it kind of takes you through. You know, obviously the opening I would say is maybe for some people slightly kind of feminine leaning because of how sort of fruity and creamy it kind of, you know, smells, at least in the initial opening. But I mean, I feel like once you kind of start getting into like the mid, it then starts to turn a lot more unisex to me. And then in the dry down, I would say it even goes completely masculine, in my opinion. All right. So, you know, like I said, it just all kind of depends on what you like. But I feel like there's something in this fragrance kind of for everybody for the most part. Now it does smell very Middle Eastern. So I would say, you know, if you're not necessarily someone who likes Middle Eastern style fragrances, then maybe this one may not be for you. But you know, if you are familiar with a lot of, you know, the Ahmed Al Maghribi fragrances and you've tried them and you like them, then this is definitely one that I would still recommend that you pick up. I do prefer the way that this smells over Mars. Like I said, Mars to me, I mean, it is very kind of similar, but to me, Mars is this Mars just smells more like something that I would kind of like spray on my clothes before I put them in the dryer. Like Mars smells like something that you would spray on your clothes before you put them in the dryer, and then, you know, once you take them out of the dryer and they're nice and warm, this would be a pretty decent smell to have on your clothes, I feel like, you know, right after you took them out of the dryer. But would I necessarily want to have this be sprayed on my skin and walk around smelling like Mars? At least for me anyway, I'm not necessarily. Like I said, I think this is a better fragrance to kind of wear as opposed to Mars. So that's just my opinion, man. Let me know in the comments what you all think about Owl from Ahmed Al Maghribi, if you all have actually smelled this fragrance. Let me know in the comments. Also, I'll have a link in the description to where you can pick this one up from banadierfragrance.com. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Sense. I'll see y'all in the next video.